Hi guys, it's Richard Palmer here from the Fair Job Network, and it's just me this morning. I'm just rattling through some news, and before I start, please consider following us below or at Spotify, and also please check out our Fair Job initiative, where if you're an employer, you can remove politics, activism, and unpleasantness, and get your workforce focused on the day job. It's a very important movement, and all employers should consider looking at this. We need to reset the relationships at work and get everyone focused on what the day job is. So it's June, and you know what that means. It's Pride Month, and I hope you've all got your rainbow avatars set. Only joking. And today, thanks to the excellent Free Speech Union, which incidentally all British people should join, we don't have a First Amendment in the UK, and it's the best way to protect your rights to freedom of speech and expression. We are looking at what Exeter University did to urinate off their staff, and which may actually be unlawful in the UK. So now, the problems that woke corporates and employers are running into in the UK is that in their headlong rush to improve their Stonewall ratings, they're falling foul of a law that was ironically designed to protect marginalised groups in the UK. Now, this is the Equality Act 2010. Now, whilst many small employers in particular will not be any friends of the Equality Act, it is frequently weaponised against employers, particularly small employers. It does actually do a job of protecting people and protecting people against discrimination in the workplace. So, as Kemi Badenoch said, the Business and Trade Minister last week, I think it was, the Equality Act should be used as a shield and not a sword. Now, here we've got an example of where the Equality Act is a shield. So the Equality Act 2010 was written to protect the rights of citizens to be treated fairly and without discrimination, and it brought together a number of different laws, including disability discrimination, age discrimination, sex discrimination, etc., and brought them all into one act of law. And it protects individuals who have certain immutable characteristics from discrimination. So these include, for example, disability, race, faith and beliefs, sex, sex reassignment, age, etc. The problem in the UK is that employers have been implementing EDI training, that's the British way of saying DEI training, and in particular training and policies which include radical ideas like critical race theory, and then they're coming up smack up against the law. They're coming up against the Equality Act. For example, the definition of racism in critical race theory effectively means that it's impossible for someone to be racist to a white person, because apparently racism requires you to both have power and be discriminating. So because BAME people are viewed not to have any power in the UK, they can't be racist to a white person if they discriminate against them. Now, the problem that you have if you put this in your DEI policy is that is not the definition under UK law. So under the Equality Act, under UK law, it's simply illegal to discriminate against any race, including white people. There's no requirement for power. Yet time and time again, we see employers discriminating against white people, and until recently, getting away with it. So it's the same with trans rights and LGBT policies within EDI training. And when these policies include ideas like allyship and employees signing pledges, they may actually fall well foul of the Equality Act. Indeed, over the last couple of years, the Free Speech Union has fought and won cases on behalf of gender-critical men and women who have been discriminated against through these policies or fired from their employment. Gender-critical beliefs are protected under the Equality Act, so these are unlawful. The left in the UK in particular is doing a very good job of ignoring the impact of DEI training on the UK workplace. But government and independent reports into this impact published this year have painted a picture of disaster, with 63% of those having received workplace EDI, that's UK DEI training, strongly disagreeing with the content, 45% having left their last job due to disagreeing with EDI training and policies at work, and a staggering 12% having witnessed someone being fired for disagreeing with EDI training that they've received. And when you extrapolate these percentages into figures, that's 1.23 million witnesses who say they've seen somebody being fired for disagreeing with EDI training they've had. Okay, let's say only 1 out of 10 of them were correct in what they saw. That's still 230,000 UK workers who've lost their jobs thanks to DEI. And I can tell you now that many of those firings would have been unlawful, but with a backlog of 430,000 employment tribunals and a 3-year waiting list, it's unlikely they'll ever see any justice. So let's dive into this Free Speech Union article written by the excellent Frederick Attenborough about what's happening at Exeter University. So the headline is Exeter University staff feel coerced to sign Stonewall anti-transphobia pledge. Staff at a top university say they feel coerced to subscribe to a Stonewall agenda by signing a pledge to oppose transphobia and demonstrate allyship by sharing their pronouns. As reported in the Daily Telegraph, Exeter University last week asked its academics to sign the Inclusive Practitioners Commitment produced by its LGBTQ plus colleague and student group. The online document requests that staff make 6 pledges to prove they are the kind of person that LGBTQ plus people can confide in and feel safe around. These include promising to affirm trans staff and students by using chosen names and pronouns. They are then encouraged to seek out LGBTQ plus people's contributions to their teaching subject and ensure when they refer to trans and non-binary experts they respect their identities, names and pronouns. Lecturers are also told to educate themselves about how anti-LGBTQ plus sentiment can be perpetuated through microaggressions, dog whistles and talking points, which is presumably what we're doing here with this video. In addition, they're asked to promise that they are firmly against transphobia by erasure, asophobia is apparently discrimination against asexual people, and intersexism, a term for prejudice against people with variations in their sex characteristics. Academics at Exeter, a member of the prestigious Russell Group of leading universities, have criticised the document, describing it as a tool to crush dissent against gender ideology. Dr. Edward Skidsley, a philosophy lecturer who's also director for the Committee of Academic Freedom, said, "Schemes like this are coercive and intended to put pressure on people who are gender critical. You will be made visible if you sign up because a badge will be displayed on your staff profile. So if you don't sign, it can be easily identified and mean you will possibly be targeted by student activists." So in other words, it's a dog whistle. Also, gender-critical people will want to be able to refer to trans people by their biological sex in certain cases. If someone is a rapist, then it's ridiculous that you should say she. Generally speaking, as a courtesy, I would always refer to someone by their preferred pronouns, but it's a courtesy, not an obligation. Another Exeter academic, who's asked not to be named for fear of being disciplined or fired, said, "I just hope that no one notices me abstaining from such things. If I am noticed, someone will complain about me and the university will try to sack me. Even if they don't succeed, the process will be brutal. The disciplinary process is in itself a brutal punishment. It's a tyranny with no concept that those with dissenting groups' views should be tolerated." Exeter University is part of the Stonewall Workplace Equality Index, which ranks employers on how LGBTQ-friendly their working environments are. It is also a member of the charity's controversial Diversity Champion Scheme, which has been criticised for encouraging employers to stifle free speech and debate in relation to trans issues. So that's the article, and frankly, it's extremely worrying and disconcerting that once again we see a British employer treading all over the rights of gender-critical employees. This is very tyrannical, and it speaks volumes that the Exeter academic quoted there would not name themselves and was terrified of being fired. It's also very interesting that the university disciplinary process also seems to be designed to silence and to intimidate. The process itself being a brutal punishment, the academic pointed out. And this punishment through process is something that we're seeing all over the Western world at the moment. And of course, this idea was very much dreamt up by was originally dreamt up by East Germany. And in the DDR, the notorious Stasi would go out of their way to destroy people's life through the process of investigation, and rather than through the actual punishment. So even if the individual was found innocent, and the state could say, "Oh, we don't persecute people because they were investigated, but they were found innocent," the actual process of investigation was so horrific for the individual involved that that effectively the punishment was the process. The police in this situation, the Stasi, would judge, jury, and executioner, and it looks to me like Exeter might be doing similar things here, allegedly. So the other thing here is that is this idea of, and I've seen this happen in a few places now, is this idea that we're going to make it, here's a pledge. Oh, it's voluntary, by the way, but if you sign the pledge, you can get to put a little badge on your online presence at the university saying that you've signed the pledge. So this is in itself an incredibly inherently political act. I mean, we see this on LinkedIn as well with the pronouns. In LinkedIn, you can select the pronouns you want, okay? But you also can leave it blank. The idea being presumably that those people those who leave it blank are effectively being dog whistled by LinkedIn as being people who don't agree that people should be parading their pronouns around. So this is exactly the same idea. It's putting a Star of David on somebody by putting different badges on everybody else, basically. So if you're rather than badging those who you wish to isolate in your community and those you wish to silence and intimidate, you just badge everybody else, and with a badge that's voluntary, but which those other people can't possibly consider wearing because it would expose them as being against those who are wearing the badges. So it's all rather horrible and nasty, and it'll be very interesting to see if Exeter University get away with it. I suspect now the Free Speech Union are on the case, they won't, and I suspect we'll probably see an employment tribunal. The problem is, of course, is that even with an employment tribunal, it's a 3-year process with a backlog of 410,000 at the moment, and frankly, 3 years is a long time. Homes are lost. Marriages break down, children will graduate from university. A lot happens in the 3 years, and most people don't have the time or the money to fight such a case, or indeed the energy and courage, which I'm not going to judge them on because it's very, very tough. So the best thing we can do is to share this story. So please share this story. Please get it out there. It's really, really important so that everybody knows everybody knows what's going on here. Name and shame these organizations in the same way that they wish to name and shame their staff by putting these policies in. The good news is that we are beginning to see pushback against the Stonewall agenda and against these types of policies. There are many people in the corporate world now, particularly in corporate HR, who are very uncomfortable with the way this has been handled over the last few years. And the good news is, folks, they're beginning to speak out about it. So it's a long and uphill battle, but we will get there. The most important thing and valuable thing you can do is to share this. If you are an employer, please consider following Fair Job, and there'll be a short advert after this piece with more information on the Fair Job initiative. Anyway, that's all for today, and please consider following us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
There was a time, not so many years ago, when managing your business's HR was easy enough. Once a month, you'd pay your staff on time, you'd look after holidays, sick leave, pensions and other stuff. The only time the HR manuals were ever open was when you had to hire or fire someone. Life was straightforward, and you could spend your time focusing on your business. But these days, it seems like there's a never-ending cycle of HR crisis after HR crisis. From an increasing amount of red tape, to demands you comply with the latest social justice movement, to activist employees. How are you meant to manage all these competing demands that have nothing to do with a day job? It's hardly surprising that some days you might wonder why you got into business in the first place. There's an expectation that small businesses have the same legions of HR, lawyers and budgets for this sort of stuff that large employers have. There's also an expectation that you as a small business owner will understand the nuances and complexities of an increasingly complex employment law and Equality Act environment. This is incredibly unfair, time-consuming and costly. The problem is that if you get it wrong, and it's very easy to do this inadvertently, it might just end up costing you your entire business. That's why we set up Fair Job UK, the small business HR support service that allows you to get on with running your business. Join our increasing community of like-minded business owners and managers from all across the UK. It's considerably more affordable than you might think, and it may just be the best decision you made this year. Visit us at fairjob.co.uk or email contact@fairjob.co.uk.